want you to understand something. When Jesus came in this world, remember, he emptied himself. The book of Philippians tells us that he emptied himself. In other words, he was not laying in that manger as a little baby, pretending that he was a baby, because he emptied himself and became like a man in every way, which means he didn't know who he was. And he depended on his mother and his father. And ultimately, we know that in time, that Mary was the only one that really believed that Jesus was who God said he was, and very probably was the only one that was influencing him in that. And I believe Mary was the first one that taught Jesus about his true identity. And then, of course, we know that Jesus then goes to the scripture, and we discover that he learned the scripture and studied the scripture and could quote the scripture and could teach the scripture at a very, very early age. So the second place he discovered his identity was the scripture. And of course, we know that because he says many different times, making reference to certain scriptures, that they were speaking of him. And so he was understanding his identity, which would help him understand his mission here on earth through the scripture. And then finally, because he believed what his mother taught him, he went to the scripture. Because he believed what the scripture taught him, he opened up his heart, and then finally he heard from God himself, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." And so ultimately he heard it from God's own voice.